Hello, my name's Andy. Welcome to episode 46 of Keeping Water. This is going to be a little shorter than usual episodes. I've got a load of jobs to do around the pond and garden, including fitting external electrical sockets, tidying up the planted walled area, covering the pipe fixings in the pond, and quite a few more. But the day job's gotten in the way this week. However, I'm on leave next week and should get most of them done, so hopefully episode 47 will be packed. Instead, this week I'll be showing a little from the brief bit of underwater filming I've managed to complete, focusing on how the mirror carp's abrasions are healing and a look at changes to the detritus on the bottom of the pond. Thanks again for all your continued support, watching, liking, commenting and subscribing. Whichever you do, it helps me do what I do. As I said last week, I'm approaching my first year of YouTubing and looking at developing what I do into the second year. If you have any ideas, for instance new things you'd like me to cover, things I do that you'd like more of, or things I do you'd like less of, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. All views welcome and gratefully received. Right, let's get started. As you may know, the carp had been showing signs of a parasitic infection and I'd treated the pond over 5 days a couple of weeks ago. Prior to that, they'd been flashing and jumping, the former causing them some injuries. I'm pleased to say that they appear to be healing up with no real issues. As time goes by, the white patches of skin will darken up and the absence of the scales will look less glaring. I'm also pleased to say that I've not observed the fish jumping or flashing for nearly 2 weeks. However, they have shown some signs of continued issues, including excess mucus. It's hard to be certain about this, and I really do want to avoid netting them, especially while they're getting more confident in the pond. Therefore, I'll keep a close eye, possibly complete a second course of treatment, and update when I have a clearer picture. As for activity and feeding, they're really enjoying the warmer temperatures and feeding well and hanging around the surface of the water with increasing regularity. So, slightly a mixed picture at the moment, but edging mostly towards the positive. As you can see in these clips, I have a lot of detritus on the bottom of the pond. This is in spite of weekly use of the pond vac and some reasonably effective mechanical filtration. I've been trying to work out why there appears a lot and why it's collecting where it is, which is a little different from last year. Firstly, I think as well as fish waste, there's quite a lot of plant matter, some of which is obviously algae, maybe still some of the dying back blanket weed I treated for some weeks ago. Secondly, I'm feeding more than I was this time last year. I've got more fish in the pond, plus I'm targeting the rudd more, and I've more biological filtration, so overall my filters can cope with a larger load. Consequently, there is probably more fish waste. What initially stumped me though was why the detritus has ended up where it is, completely along the drop between depths, and in the front to the right. Waste always did sit along the drop, but not so much or all the way along it, and previously the front would be relatively clear, with more waste towards the rear right corner. Eventually, however, I've worked out that 2 changes I've made to the filtration have made the difference, and maybe another might play a part too. First off, I split the outlet from the filter to give me both an above the surface return through the drain pipe and a below the surface return facing downwards. I think it's this below the surface return that has pushed the waste more towards the front. The second difference is that when I change the pipework from the filter to allow a greater flow through it, I decrease the amount of water that goes through the splitter directly back into the pond. Although this flow would seem to push it away from the pump, it actually used to keep more detritus from settling by pushing it upwards into the flow from the filter returns and then into the skimmer, or eventually settling back down and taken in by the pump. With reduced flow, it has less effect, and the detritus being pushed doesn't rise through the water column and just collects by the drop-off. Lastly, a possibility may be that a third change I made, adding filter floss to the skimmer, has decreased the flow through it, and therefore heavier detritus has time to sink before the skimmer has a chance to collect it. I'm not sure about this. The skimmer still gets pretty full, but it may play a small part at least. Therefore, it may be that there's not actually more detritus, but it's collecting in seemingly larger quantities in just a couple of spaces. So what can I do about it? In the first instance, as you can see, I use my homemade skimmer net to do a big clear out of the bottom of the pond. However, I don't really want to be doing this on a regular basis, mostly because it stresses the fish, and also as I bought the pond vac for a reason, which was to make pond cleaning less hard work. Another option would be to change the direction of the flow from the splitter. This may require additional pipe work, however, and I'm a little loath to do that, as there's enough plastic in there as it is. I'll give it some thought and would welcome any ideas you have. It may be that the algae has fully died off and it will reduce anyway over time. Just as a heads up, episode 48 will be an in-depth look at how I clean both the pond and the filters. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Keeping Water. I really do appreciate it. In next week's episode, I'll show some electrical work I'm going to complete to help with vacuuming and with water changes, some plant work I've planned for both in and around the pond, a fix I'm making to the drainage sump, and finally some work sorting out the pipework fittings in the pond. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.